Okay, we should be hitting onto YouTube in just a couple of seconds. Let's see here. All right, it looks like we are now live. Merry meet and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and let people kind of pop in. Golden Ghoul, blessed be, and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. And NightShayde, I didn't know if you were gonna. Jenna, my love, how are you? I didn't know if you were gonna the chat. If you want to read the chat, you have to pull up the video in YouTube, the live stream in YouTube, so you can read the chat. Otherwise, if somebody asks you a question or anything like that, I can monitor the chat and tell you. Is whatever you
do. You do that. You just ask the questions and I'll get in there. If I get caught up in the conversation, my mind will wander and I'll end up getting over in the conversation.
Okay, will do. What did she say? Hello, says she's not a witch, but I love Paula, so just saying hi. Well, welcome, darling. You know I appreciate your support. And boy, there is like literally a 25-second delay between what we're doing and what's happening on YouTube. Woo! So going to wait for just a couple more minutes. For those of you, NightShayde is a friend of mine. I appeared on his podcast called Flatline to Beatline. NightShayde, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your podcast and your path?
Well, to knock it out, I am a tribalist heathen. I've been a heathen for almost 2 years, but I've been a traditional witch for 31 years. And I've practiced voodoo and hoodoo and brujeria and balo and things of that nature. So I'm trying to get well-rounded in that. With regards to the podcast, it really is a weekly podcast that showcases pagan and or witch business owners, authors, artists, musicians, and content creators in order to get their names out there. You know, the ones who had those small Etsy shops, small YouTube channels, those small Twitter followers, and they just want to get their name out there. So that's what my podcast is to help them break through the noise in a saturated market. And yes, of course, I've got big names that come on the podcast, but I only do that maybe once or twice a month. The rest of the time, it's just your average person that comes on that wants to make a living or get noticed.
Well, that's like, I was on your second episode, and I have to tell you, I saw like a significant growth in this channel and, the watch time of my videos and everything. So if any of you are, pagan creators, artists, musicians, anything like that, after the video is over, I'll pin a comment as to how you can get into contact with NightShayde. Okay. And let's see, we've had some more people come in. We've got Walking My Path. Hello. And we have Black Cat Lover. It says, hello, Paula, just listening as I crochet. And we have Smurf Maxine Blue. Hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. Merry meet and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. I don't know how many of you are on Twitter and follow a lot of like pagan kind of pages or anything like that, but I saw kind of like a really disturbing trend over the past couple of weeks. And NightShayde and I have, we have different paths. We have a very different background in our, not only our belief systems, but, and in our magical practices too. And Star Dancer, hello and welcome. So there was a thread on Twitter, and NightShayde, I could tell from your tweet, I think it was earlier yesterday, that you were like a little bit fuming over this whole thing. And it started out, men can't be witches, which just pissed me off. What did you think about that, Nightshade?
Well, it's kind of weird. That's actually been going on for a very long time, but I
Mhm.
think it was the other day or 2 days ago, I put a picture out there. I just had this gut feeling to put it, tweet about it, but I put a picture of Olden, and I said something to the effect that, for those who don't think that men cannot be witches, tell that to Odin. And so I don't know where they're getting this from that, uh, you know, that only men, oh, I'm sorry, only women can be witches and that men are all warlocks. I mean, it just goes to show the ignorance, not of outside paganism and outside witches, but even ones within our ranks. And it's scary to think that these people think this way, even in the 21st century. That sorry, you have to have a vagina to be a witch. That is just complete nonsense, and there's no basis in it historically or otherwise.
Yeah, and we've got, Damn It Jenna, who is one of my, my buds here on the YouTube, says that's absolute bullshit. The term witch is genderless. And I have to agree. And I'm not really, this is, this argument comes up routinely. It like cycles through every so often. That and Kyle, hello. Walking my path says definitely nonsense. And also, there are a lot of people who think that, especially like in Wicca, yeah, everyone, if you could tweet this out on your social media platforms, or give it a thumbs up on here, it helps me in the algorithm and helps my videos show up in the YouTube recommendations for people that are looking for, pagan and witchy information. So I'd appreciate that. Um, but there also comes the argument that, you know, Wiccans aren't really witches. And we know that some witches think that unless you're a hereditary, you're not a real witch. And, what do you think about that? Do you think you have to have like a lineage or a direct hereditary, connection to actually call yourself a witch?
No, I do not. And as far as that argument about heredity or being a hereditary witch, some people will. That actually comes spurs from, I think it was around the 1960s or 1970s, in which people were saying, "Hey, I was born a witch. I was born." No, you were not. That's where you actually have to prove some kind of lineage. But nobody's born anything other than a human being. I mean, and the gender that they were born as. So that I've been through that. The witch wars and stuff like that back in the 80s when they were talking about this. It's nonsense. And to say that Wiccans aren't witches, that's not true either. Now, 99% of all Wiccans are witches. There are some that are not witches, which I still don't understand. But not all witches are Wiccans. So this constant battle and drawing these battle lines is ridiculous. It's been going on for a very long time, and I'm not trying to sing a kumbaya thing. And Paula, I'll call out bullshit like it is, and that's just how I do it. We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same ranks, and until this nonsense stops, we're going to end up destroying ourselves just like we did many centuries ago.
Exactly. And we've got a couple of comments from the chat. Jenna says, witches deal with enough outside BS. We don't need to create problems within the circle. And Golden Ghoul says, if you cast any spells in general, that makes you a witch. And Uber says, Nightshade, I don't know you, but I'm giving you a big hug too. So Uber is like our we're going to call her our YouTube mother in the little community that I hang out in over here. And Skyly, hello, welcome, welcome. I appreciate all of you guys coming in. And I happen to agree with you, Nightshade. There are some Wiccans who only do ritual and they don't do any spell work and stuff like that. And that's okay, that's your practice, but in your tools that you use are termed magical tools. Your altar is a place of magic. And if you're doing magic in general, whether it's through worship or spell work or whatever you do, Marie Duffy, hello my dear. um that then that makes you pretty much a witch in my book. And I know that so many Wiccans have heartburn at being called witches. And that just kind of um oh, Gomez, hon, I am so glad you found me too. um you know if you can stay, great, but if you find it too hard to listen, then that's fine too, honey. um Gomez was in the live stream on Uber's channel that I was talking about with you, well, before we went live. We and I contacted some people for folks in the chat during the live stream. So my little mediumship self was coming out. And somebody said they love the fur babies, and the white one is Rocky. The pit is Lemmy, named after Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead. And the other one is Okie. So I've got three of my fur babies, got my back here. Um, but anyway, a lot of Wiccans don't like the term witch. And I think it's because of a negative connotation. And what really, and I'm going to say this because I am a member of the Wiccan community, whether they like me to be or not. I am not your typical Wiccan. I am not, what people think of when they think of a Wiccan. I'm not, you know, glitter and all that kind of stuff. I'm just not. And they need to remember that, the term Wicca didn't even exist until the 1960s. And Gerald Gardner himself, there is nowhere in any of his writings that the term Wicca comes up, calling the dogma that he came up with, Wicca. He didn't do it. It was created in the 60s. And so and up until that point, they were termed to be witches. They performed witchcraft. He said that, it was the craft. Wicca was his religion that he created, was the craft of the wise. So, I really encourage Wiccans to do a little historical research, because there are a lot of revisionist versions out there of what Wicca is and is not. So, I encourage people, if you really want to know about witchery, Wicca, and witchcraft, heathenry, do a little research. Don't be afraid to, reach out to folks. We've got some Golden Ghoul says that I mainly cast peace spells. Bonus points having tea, but I rarely cast anymore, just ever so often. Gomez Adams says, I know about witches. It runs in my family. Do you know Motorhead? Because that kills me. I'm 55, so I was up and coming in the 80s. Yes, I do. I was actually blessed to see Motorhead with Judas Priest and Heaven and Hell before Lemmy died. I think it was like about a year before Lemmy died. So yes, and I saw them in the 80s, the fathers of the, thrash and punk movement. So there you go. There's your little music history. Jenna says someone is restless back there, and that's my Rocky. It's it's the sun's down and he wants to go up to bed. He is such a turkey. Jenna says she gets a lot of questions when she lets people know that she's pagan. Do you find that people ask you questions, like whether you worship Satan and stuff like that?
Well, I live in a very very rural area. Paula, you know where I live.
Yeah.
And the person there in the chat room named Skyly is my fiance. So she knows exactly where I live. And the thing is on my street, I have 10 churches. All right. Most people around here do not bother me because of my past reputation.
Yeah.
uh, so no, I don't get questions. What I have found is several people coming out. You know, if I'm wearing a Molnir T-shirt or anything like that, people are like, "Hey, I'm a heathen as well. I'm a Wiccan as well. I'm a witch as well. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. This is so awesome." What I tell people like that tend to hide behind the shadows, grow up. All right. The thing is, if you cannot handle the fire, get out of the kitchen. Right. I mean, this is what it's all about. Those people are saying, I don't like the negative connotation of being called a witch. I'm like, oh my God. Like, no, dude, you're a witch, period. That's how it is. And if you don't like it, walk on and become a Christian or something, because this is just a fact of life. And I constantly get people saying, you know, even witches are constantly battling the small menial things like, no, we don't worship Satan. No, we don't do this. No, we don't know. If you're a witch, 99% of them or so don't even believe in a physical devil itself. I
I was going to say, if you're Wiccan, you don't acknowledge the existence of Satan.
Exactly. And I'm a traditional witch and I'm a tribalist heathen and I don't acknowledge it. And I have practiced Satanism. I have practiced Luciferianism. There isn't, yes, there are those who do believe that. And this is what people need to understand. And as far as, I mean, really what this is all coming around to and what you're trying to get around to without asking is who's a real witch and what determines who a real witch is. So you just go ahead, Polly. I know you well enough to know. You just do your thing and ask your questions.
We got this going on, I got to
Yeah.
kind of ease some folks into it though. So, Nightshade, what the hell is a real witch to you? What does that mean?
Well, to understand that question, you must understand what witchcraft is.
Right.
And witchcraft is a science, it is a trade, a practice, a skill. It is balance between light and dark. Liken it to nature. It has life-giving properties and it has destructive properties. That's a fact. No human being can deny that about nature. So to be a real witch, you must be able to walk the crooked path. You must embrace both light and dark. You must be able to heal and to hurt. And if you are stuck only on one side of the path, then you're not a real witch. That's just a fact of life. And
Mhm.
if somebody is a fluffer and they're saying, I only do peace and love and light, and this is how it's all to be, and I don't want to learn cursing, hexing, vexing, and crossing. I don't want to learn shadow work. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to work with necromancy or anything. Then you need to question whether or not you're a real witch, because it seems like you want the positive aspects of all the love and light and rainbows and glitter and shit, but you don't want to face darker elements. And even shadow working is a darker element of witchcraft. And witchcraft has so many things from plants and herbs and alchemy and energy work. And there is so much out there.
Yeah.
But it's a fact that if you cannot embrace this all, then you are not a true witch if you do not walk that crooked path.
And a lot of people, especially, and Jenna says, embrace the duality that is nature: dark, light, life, death, good, bad. It's all hand in hand. And she also said Satan is a Christian concept. And, oh man. Oh, we just lost one of our police officers. Oh my God. I hate when I get text messages like that from my better half. But especially when I talk to Wiccans that say, "Oh no, the reed says, and it harm none, do as ye will." But they forget the part of the reed that says, fairly give and fairly take. That means that there is a balance in things. And it does not mean that you have to be a doormat and let people walk all over you, because guess what? If you walk on a blade of grass, you're harming it. So, I'm kind of a little bit stinky to Wiccans that don't embrace even the shadow work, because your shadow self is a part of you and it's a part of your existence. And if you turn your back on that part of your existence, you're only a shell of yourself. You're not really being true to your own self. And Golden Ghoul says shadow working is highly beneficial, can confirm. And Star Dancer says, old saying, a witch that cannot curse cannot cure. And I tell a lot of people, especially, because my channel has a lot of learning videos and such on it, that you can't defend the dark if you don't know the dark. You can't cure the dark if you don't know it.
Well,
Jenna says, I won't wish death on someone, but some back pain, yeah, I'll do that.
Well, people must understand that there are different types of Wiccans. You have the neo-Wiccans, you have the traditional Wiccans.
Mm-hmm.
And you take a very famous Wiccan that's out there, Thorn Mooney, very well-educated woman, good author. She's a traditional Wiccan. If you don't think she curses and hexes, you might want to think again. All right, there are many. Raymond Buckland was a traditional Wiccan. If you don't, Dorian Valiente, Dorothy Morrison, if you don't think they've cursed and hexed somebody, you might want to do your research, because those are kind of people I wouldn't even want to mess with. And
yeah, exactly. And, nowhere in any of Gardner's writings does he say you can't, cursing, hexing, vexing, crossing, any of that kind of stuff, that's off the table. Nowhere in there does it say that. And, like I said, so many people, and I'm gonna say Wiccans are like unicorns farting glitter. And they're really missing a big part of their practice and their potential of what they can achieve. And Yasmin Jade said, I had a dog with parvo and I placed my hands on him, and her hands heated up and he got better again. And they've had gypsies say that they have the gift of healing. And that is it. I mean, we had people when I was growing up that they called charmers. And I don't know if any of you kind of heard that, but that's kind of like a mountain thing. And Walking My Path, it does say, and it harm none in the reed. However, Gerald Gardner didn't write the reed. It was written in the 60s. His, dogma was written and formally introduced in 1954. And nowhere in his teaching does he say anything about not harming anyone. That was in a reed is a set of like recommended guidelines, for lack of a better term. But nowhere does it say that you need to be a doormat. And
Paula, you're trying to play nice. You're trying to find the right words. And the thing is, me, and those who listen to my podcast know I cut through the bullshit. I'm going to come in swinging with a sledgehammer. Here's a fact. Do you curse, hex, vex, and cross for shits and giggles? No, you do not. You don't do these kind of things. It has to be justified. And those who refuse to curse or hex or vex themselves will always look for somebody else to do it for them. And that's where people like me come in, and people of my kind. The thing is, and I mentioned this when we last spoke, when you interviewed me on your channel last year, if somebody breaks into your relative's house or your friend's house or even your own, and you get raped, your daughters, your kids get beaten and raped, your husband or wife, whatever, beaten, you cannot sit there and tell me this unicorn, rainbow, love, and light crap is going to overtake all that and you forgive and forget. No, you want revenge. It's all about vengeance, and you will get yours. This is a fact of life. And if you do not recognize this, then you again need to question whether you are a real witch or not. This is a fact. There are more witches out there that are more worried about capitulating to the Abrahamic faith, especially the Christians. Oh no, I don't do that. I don't do. No, just stand up and be a damn witch. The rise of witches and pagans is here. The fall of the patriarchy is here. The rise of the matriarchy is here. And this is a wave that is coming in and it will not stop. And if you want to sit there and pander to everyone else that may have a negative criticism of you being a witch or a heathen or a Satanist or a Luciferian, then you need to do some shadow work on yourselves and find out whether these paths are right for you. If not, go to a church, which brings up another point, which is going to church. I'm sorry. No. And if somebody tries to bring in hoodoo, no, it has nothing to do with that. And I'm so tired of seeing witches go, well, I go to church and I have Wednesday mass and Sunday mass and I go to Sunday school, but I practice witchcraft. You're in violation of the Bible for a fact. If you read tarot cards and you go to church, you're in violation of the Bible. And that's a fact. And no one can dispute that. So yeah, I had to get that out there. Sorry.
Yeah. Skyly says, oh, geez, don't get NightShayde started on the Christians. Laugh out loud. So, and there are, and a little bit, I'm in the kind of, because I do perform conjure, okay, but I do what feels right for me, okay? And part of the reason that I landed on this path is the fact that I questioned what was written by man and taken as the word of God. And we all know that there are well-documented scholarly tomes out there that, the Bible was kind of changed or translated or kind of morphed a little bit to meet papal kind of, what can we say? They wanted to get rid of paganism, okay, so that the early church could survive. So a lot of what was written down was taking direct shots at paganism. And there are a lot of us out there that may find, spirituality and working with archangels and things like that aren't necessarily a concept embraced in Wicca or witchcraft, by some. But we also, I believe in reincarnation. I believe in a lot of different stuff. So I think that the Bible had too much changed by man to put forth their own agenda. Like saying that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then it wasn't until like the 1960s that the Catholic Church finally admitted, oh no, we messed up. It wasn't translated properly. Mary Magdalene was never a prostitute. So, if you go by the strict word of the Bible, no, you can't be a witch and be a Christian at the same time, because they're two, thou shalt not let a witch to live kind of thing. But, it's
well, even in the witch community, okay, the Bible's been changed over 1,477 times.
exactly.
That's a fact. There are now. Am I against somebody working with angels or archangels or anything? Absolutely not. I know very, very hardline satanic witches that work with archangels, Raphael and Michael, and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I do conjure and Appalachian folk magic here and there. I don't see anything wrong with that. I know some very hardline, quote unquote, black witches that utilize the Bible. Some people will say that the Bible is one of the greatest sources of magic, of sorcery in there. Am I denying Yahweh or Jehovah's existence? Absolutely not. I know very dark witches that have actually worked with Jehovah. They say he's very menial and pissant compared to the other ones, but that's their words. But if somebody's sitting there, it just upsets me when they're just more worried about defending Christians and not defending their own kind of people. That I don't like, and it just aggravates me so badly. Oh,
Yeah, and like it was a very tough thing. I mean, I will never forget. And this is, one of Paula's family stories. Um, my middle sister converted to Judaism when she after she married her second husband. And because they were going to have kids, and children are raised under the mother's faith in the Jewish religion. So she converted. She went through a lot of, very formal and arduous religious training to get accepted, as a converting Gentile. And when our grandmother um, passed away, everybody found out when we were at the wake back in West Virginia that she had converted to Judaism. And one of our cousins started in, telling her she was going to go to hell and everything like that. And it was one of the few times I ever saw my very proper Southern mother lose her shit on somebody. And, so that is where I started kind of like my questioning and my seeking of knowledge and everything like that. Watch out, because this kitty has claws says, "What is reincarnation?" That means my soul comes back in different lifetimes over and over. Golden Ghouls says, "My girlfriend's grandfather is a Christian. I go to their church sometimes, but he won't accept anything else. His mind is closed, God or Satan, nothing else. So we don't talk about it because it'll be a headache and a half." And there are just some times when you have to say, I gave up arguing with the fence post when I was a lot younger, because I only have so many breaths in a lifetime, and I don't want to waste them on somebody that's not even open to having a discussion or even trying to see a different way of thinking.
and
So
I'm completely the opposite. I'll argue with the fence post just to argue.
I know, if I want somebody, I'm going to call you to do all my arguing for me.
It is.
Because I'm just too old and tired to do it anymore.
Hey, I'm up there in age too, but the thing is that I've spent my whole life arguing and debating. I've actually debated three cardinals in the Catholic, and I won, and I'm proud to admit that. And they could not stand on their legs after I was finished. I've debated atheists. I've debated this and that. So there are so many people that practice paganism, and that's a broad term,
Mhm.
but we get this in heathenry a lot, and it's called wicca true or universalist heathenry, where they want to come in and just change everything and make love and light and this and oh, Odin's black and Freya's Chinese, and no, you don't do this. That's not how this is heathenry is set up. And I'm not a focused either. I'm not some moron white supremacist. I'm a tribalist heathen, which it's tribal related. And if you look at any culture throughout time, one, they were always matriarchal, and two, they were always communal. And that's what tribalist heathenry is. And
Mhm.
that's what we have gotten away from over the past many decades is everybody's more about sticking to their own self and not the general mass, as a whole.
Right.
And granted, a lot of people don't like large groups, or they don't want to submit to another person's rule or anything else like that. That's fine. I can dig that. But even as solitary witches, people do have to come together and not defend a Christian over another witch. That you don't do that. You don't betray another witch. You just don't do it. You don't curse, hex, or vex another witch unless it's absolutely justified. You see, and this is where we get so mixed up. Everybody wants the feely good stuff, and they're scared to even explore their darker aspects of balance itself.
Right. And Gomez Adams just said, "I've kept my mouth shut, but I can't believe I came into Uber's stream and found you guys. I never talk about this stuff around people because I thought I would be shunned." And that's really, it's really sad. that it's like that, but that's been the case for a long time, and I don't know if we'll ever get past that point where you have the fear. I mean, I stayed in the broom closet for several years because I worked in public safety and I was a female in a male dominated career of the fire service. I was also law enforcement because I was a fire marshal. And being a pagan or being a witch in that kind of environment would have almost been career suicide for me. And after I retired and several of the other women that I came in with at the same time retired, we found out that we were all witches or Wiccans, and we had kept it on the DL for our entire, a big portion of our careers. And it's really sad. It wasn't until I was like in the last couple of years of my career that I came out of the broom closet because I didn't really give a shit. Because they couldn't fire me. I had too much time on my, time in for them to mess with me. And by the time that they could get around to getting me fired, if they wanted to, I had more than enough time to retire and walk out the door and say F you as I left. So, but it's really sad that we're still like that. And then I had about a month ago on one of my videos on the channel about the goddess and the god. And I'm sorry if you're a snowflake, I'm sorry. But I had the snowflake leave a comment and actually get into a fight in the comment section with someone else because they commented, this gave me a lot better understanding of the duality of the male and female divine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they basically said, but, why are you saying that, females are the mothers and the mother types and this and that and the other? And it's like, well, women are the ones that bear the children. Okay. But to have people even say stuff like that, and this was somebody attacking Wicca in and of itself. And I'm like, we just don't need to go there. We don't need to go there.
No, we don't. These are very trivial things. And I was actually called into a debate where somebody says, hey, I need your help. And I go in there. The second I show up, they see my name and they go, okay, I'm not arguing no more, because I show up. But I actually want to say something to this Gomez person.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you're a male or a female or whatever.
She's female.
Is it female? So I'm going to ask you this question. Would you rather live on your knees or stand on your feet? Yes, you have to decide what battles you wish to fight. And I understand that family is absolutely important. But if you're going to lay down, and I'm going to be brutal here, if you're going to lay down like a bitch, then they're going to treat you like one. And until you stand up on your feet, they're always going to see you as that dog with a leash.
Well, I'm not going to go that far.
I will. I always do.
I know you do. I know you do. You are a lot more
brutal
than I am. And
but it is important to stand up for what you believe. It is important to say, this is who I am. And you won't be comfortable in your own skin until you truly embrace that. I'll put that in a softer way then.
Right. So many animals on this planet are becoming complete female, 100% non-dependent on male species, on other female, does the act of mimicking, and the female has her own sperm to inseminate herself. Yeah, but humans haven't got there yet. So, I know that there are, plants that are doing this, and there are, what is it, monopods or something like that? I can't remember, that are doing that. And that's all well and good. But the fact of the matter is, there is a duality to the divine. And, most people forget, especially Wiccans, they're taught, Jenna says we can always milk the males. Ha ha. Oh my Lord.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, just, put loincloths on and stick us in cages and only take us out for procreative measures.
exactly.
I hear this all the time, and I know she's joking, but that actually brings a very good point that is really hitting us hard in pagan and witch communities, and it's not just politics in general, but it is feminism in its
Hmm.
various forms. And this is a very touchy area, and I even try to somewhat avoid it. And it's always this I see this surge of, oh, males, it's all toxic masculinity. Well, if it, and I agree, there are aspects of toxic masculinity, there's no doubt about that. But if it wasn't, but it's seeing I'm seeing a lot of males being what would you call, whipped down, and just saying, you should be ashamed for being a man. You can't be masculine. I'm going to tell you this: if men didn't have masculine traits, I'm going to tell you this right now, we'd be in a whole different world, and it would be completely different. So I see this surge of, especially a lot of female witches and pagans attacking other female witches and pagans, attacking especially male witches and pagans
Hmm.
grossly, and this is a disservice and an injustice to our ranks and our communities. And this needs to stop. And this has been a very hot topic on Twitter, especially with politics. Politics has absolutely nothing to do with witchcraft. It has nothing to do with paganism. Nothing. The only time politics comes in is either one, in your own personal beliefs, or two, in a tribal setting. That's just a fact. So if somebody is, I don't know, a Trump supporter and they happen to be a witch, then allow them to be a witch and a Trump supporter. Don't attack them for being one. I personally don't like Trump, but still, I mean, don't do this. And this is exactly what non-witches and pagans want us to do: destroy ourselves from within.
Yeah, and a lot of people when and I'm going to say this because that dear snowflake evidently doesn't know that much about, and definitely didn't watch my video where they were just lumping, the goddess as just being the motherly, the more gentle spirit, blah, 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 and the father being the, protector and the this and that and the other. There are 6 aspects to both sides, to male and female. And most Wiccans are familiar with maiden, mother, and crone, but they forget about the warrior and protector, the lover, and the dark goddess. Just like they forget about, it's wild one, father, and sage, and then it's warrior, lover, and dark god. And that is what a lot of people they don't take that next step in their learning and the embracing of their path to realize that in sometimes women were the most fierce warriors in, like, the Maori culture. And you've probably seen a Maori haka if you've ever watched a rugby game with the New Zealand team, the All Blacks. You see them do a haka before, which is a warrior dance. And if a woman does it, she doesn't bend her knees, she doesn't bend down, because their Maori women were the fiercest warriors and bent to no one.
Oh, I absolutely agree that
So a lot of people forget that, and they forget that there's also that more gentler, nurturing, fatherly lover side of the god. He's not just that god that is, going to cut your head off and, this, that, and the other.
oh, absolutely. And anyone who is a mother, I wouldn't want to get between a mother and her child. No, that you want to talk about dangerous? That's extremely dangerous to do. And now I'm a father myself. You get in between me and my daughters, the CIA will write a whole new book on how to torture somebody,
I was
because
going to say, you get on my family or, my kids, and it's like,
that's
bye,
that's exactly my
I'll
point.
take you out.
With a lot of these snowflakes that are out there saying, "Oh, all this," yeah, until somebody messes with your family, now all those rules are thrown out the door, and that's absolutely what's crucial. And for those to say that being, masculine is a bad thing, and that women are all, lovey dovey, motherly touch. No. See, people just don't understand the dichotomy between male and female. And there are some who either drive a strong barrier between male and female, and those who wish they want to become unisex and they're all the same thing. I don't understand that. There's a reason why we're male and female. So, I mean, I don't know. It is insane.
And we've got a couple of people in the Golden Gould says feminism wasn't always a bad joke, but it really is a cancer now. And I agree. I was a child in the 60s and the 70s, and I remember, the ERA movement and the feminist movements and stuff like that. And there was a point to it. But now it's kind of a joke. And it's unfortunate. We have a couple of people says lizards like the Komodo dragon have parthenogenesis, i.e. virgin birth without the male involvement. And that's very true. I can't think of a mammal that is like that. You have plant life where they are, omnisexed or whatever you want to call it. But in general, the duality of nature in general, there's two sides of it. There is a seed and there's fertilizing. So whether you put that to male, female, or however you do it, there's a seed, and then there's a need for, fertilization and then further growth and nutrients and everything. Jenna says, social justice worrying isn't a bad thing until it's taken to extremes. And it's the extremists that ruin everything for everyone else. And we find that in just about anything. It's like if anybody goes too far left or too far right, then the cause of what was there at the beginning and what the fight for the justice was gets lost in the noise.
I can absolutely agree. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
You always do.
I always do. Yes, it's all cozy sitting on a fence post and sitting on that fence, but there are times where you're going to have to choose one side or the other. And
exactly.
I absolutely agree that the whole social justice warrior movement type of thing has gone way out of hand, and it has been misused and abused. And hey, everybody's so wanting equality. Everybody, it's a high and mighty thing. And this is what my most recent episode of my podcast today, where I was discussing the revival of Minoan paganism with Laura Perry. She actually brought this up, saying that everybody thinks that equality is some high status. And in reality, it's not. We strive to be like, say, especially women, they strive to be equal to men. What people need to realize is they just need to be themselves. And yes, are women underpaid? Absolutely. Are women overlooked? Absolutely. Are there chauvinistic, pig-headed, douchebag type of guys? Absolutely there is. Will this ever go away?
I've worked with most of them for 31 years.
Exactly. I was in the military. I was law enforcement. I completely understand. And does it hurt us? Yes. But will it ever go away? No, it will not. And this is just a fact of life. What we actually need to focus on as pagans and witches is not only helping one another out and lifting each other up, but at the same time taking care of the element that has taken care of us. And that is the earth. That is absolutely crucial, because I don't care what anybody says. Yes, there is climate change, and it's about to get haywire in the next 15 to 20 years. And I'm actually terrified of what's about to happen. So we are the forebearers. We are the guardians of the earth. And we have to stand up and do something about that.
I completely agree, because, for everything that, all the money in the world and everything, if you don't have breathable air and you don't have soil that hasn't been stripped of nutrients to be able to sustain and grow your food, guess what? You're going to die regardless. And we absolutely have to take, and I think that the pagan community could honestly do some of the best education that would be out there to put that message forward. And unfortunately, we get derailed by stuff bringing everything back around, that, you have to be this to be a witch. You have to be this to be a witch. You can only be a woman. You can't be a man. You can't be this. Men are called warlocks, this, that, and the other, and something else. And when people get that involved in the minutia of something, you're missing the bigger, higher purpose. And that is preserving our environment, and making an absolute issue and taking issue forward with preserving Mother Earth and, Father Sky and everything like that, and
I
it's
absolutely agree. The people that are listening to this, let's get these questions going because I've been hearing there's a lot of questions here. Let's get them, start flowing them in. Come on.
I've been reading statements and stuff. Jenna says we need to fight for Earth, not each other. The balance of Richard says the balance of masculine and femininity, I think, purposely gets derailed by certain interests.
That's actually a very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it is yes, you have to have that balance, but you're always going to have more than the other. That's just a fact. There is no way you can be perfectly balanced, and there's not a human being to have ever existed, or plant life or animal life that has been perfectly balanced.
No, we are flawed in our very existence
Exactly.
in some way. And let's see, Gomez says, I think extremism is actually created to keep people from coming together. In fact, I know it's part of history. And Golden Ghoul said, take ISIS and the witch burnings for instance. 100% agree in it. That's extremism. So, and it really, Jenna says, you need to embrace our brothers and sisters, not push them away. We need to teach and learn from each other on what's best for our survival. And Richard says, be careful what you do on the web. What you do on the web, you do to yourself. So bringing it back around, and what the purpose of my channel is to, kind of educate people and have them try and see that link between Wicca and witchcraft. You don't have to, you need to embrace different ways of thinking. The same thing with your podcast, Flatline to Beatline, is bringing pagan creators and authors and people with pagan platforms and getting the word out there and getting this movement and this network kind of built where we can kind of help each other and lift each other up and stop trying to tear each other down like the way we do. And I think a lot of it has to do, with education. And of course, you're going to have some of those jackasses out there that just don't want to hear anything. But, that's always happened, So, NightShayde, you have anything before we sign off? You have anything else you want to say to everybody? I wanted to keep this to about an hour or so.
Yeah. For those who are interested in my podcast, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, but my podcast is literally the only of its kind. And what I do is I focus on pagan and or witch. And what I mean by pagan is Satanist, Luciferian, Druid, heathen, or just pagan, and or witch, any kind of witch, business owners, authors, artists, musicians, content creators who are trying to get their name out there. Yes, I do have big names. Like I just had my latest episode today, had a big name on there. But my primary focus is to get those who have small Etsy shops, who have those small YouTube accounts that nobody pays attention to. Juxtaposed to so many podcasts that focus on the big names, I focus on the opposite. I want to hear from those people, and I defend. I'm that vanguard of saying only witches and pagans can come on my show as guests. So every time you hear a guest on there, they are a witch and or a pagan. And if you have a YouTube channel, or hey, maybe you're trying to write a book, or you just finished a book and you're trying to get it published, let me know. and you come on my show, I'll interview you. You want your YouTube channel to get notoriety? Let me know. We'll talk about that. Your Facebook groups, we'll do that. And I believe, and it is only by the blessings of the gods and goddesses that my podcast is growing like it is. I started it in September of last year. Yes, I had to face technical difficulties and had to start pretty much all over again, but it's growing in mass. And, Paula, you and I have collaborated so much on various projects and we're helping one another out. What you are seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are talking about. Backing each other up, helping each other out, collaborating, working together for the benefit of our own people. That is what is important.
And I just dropped the link to Flatline to Beatline on Spotify. If you want to, he's available on just about any platform there is out there. I think I've got you on Podbean, if I remember correctly.
Well, I actually left Podbean. My
Okay.
hosting site is Castbox, but I'm on 43 platforms, so take your pick and listen.
And his handle on Twitter is F as in Frank 2B, the number 2, B as in boy podcast on Twitter. So again, let's see. You don't have a YouTube channel yet, do you?
No, I don't plan on doing a YouTube. I
I
don't
didn't
appear on
think you
camera.
were.
Yeah, I don't appear on camera.
Yeah. If you want, please look up Flatline to Beatline Podcast wherever, just about anywhere, find them. NightShayde, thank you so much. And, this is exactly what he said. This is a collaboration that is the result of going and networking. And I was, featured on his podcast, I think the second episode of your podcast.
Yes, it was. And actually, it is the most liked episode.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I thought
and
I was.
Jenna, no, we don't have a damn Discord, and I know where you're going with that. And I'm going to spank your honey, little girl. Anyway,
No,
Discord drama, this week.
I don't know. I'm a tech geek and I don't understand the whole Discord thing. But I interview people using, podcasters use different platforms. But no, I don't Discord.
Yeah, and no, Jenna was being a smart ass because there were some big Discord people publishing private Discord conversations and stuff like that.
Oh no, that's not cool.
Yeah, that's not cool at all. Come on. And Jenna says, oh, come on, man. So everybody, thank you so much. I am planning on doing these little live streams the last Saturday of each month. If you have an idea for a subject you want me to tackle, you want us to tackle on here, thank you guys for welcoming NightShayde. He's absolutely, a fantastic source for me. I pick his brain all the time. So with that, everybody, merry we did meet, merry we will part until we merry meet again. Be well and walk in love and light, everybody. Bye. Okay.